So, as always, I can't remember the name of the talk, so let me just quickly go to YouTube to look actually what the name of the talk is. The True Cost of Waking Up from Suffering, Non-Duality, Lisa Cairns. Interesting. The true cost of waking up from suffering. Yeah. I think this subject matter is really prevalent as we descend into the winter months in the Northern Hemisphere. Because I think that when we have less sunshine and when we're more inside with less socialization, people often struggle a lot more mentally. And when people are struggling a lot more mentally, then obviously they begin to seek more to try and relieve themselves from that pain. So I always find that there's more interest when America and Europe are in their winter, and less interest during the summer. And I think it's the sunshine, so the vitamin D, and then I think it's socialization. Like socializing changes things. And it becomes more obvious to people that they're suffering, although they might not label it suffering. So let's have a look at the idea of what suffering is in non-duality terms. So just as a note before I begin, this isn't a substitute for therapy. Non-duality is actually very different from therapy. And therapy is about fixing the person and the person's life, and non-duality is about going beyond the person. And although they can seem similar, they're actually vastly different. Yeah. Because often in non-duality, therapeutic techniques are given in order to calm the person, so non-duality can be spoken about and the person can be recognized for what it is. But if you do need therapy, this is not a good substitute. And so I'd really recommend doing that. And you can still listen to non-duality, but working on the person. And it doesn't need to be therapy where you're sitting in the office with somebody. There's all types of therapeutic mediums out there. So if one form doesn't work for you, there's so many. I particularly like somatic therapies. And you can look on my website and there's reference pages of suggestions if you'd like that. So that's one notification that I would like to say. And then the next one is that all non-duality teachers are going to express this differently, and all non-duality teachers are different and teach in different ways. I wouldn't say that I am a teacher that teaches intellectual clarity. And some teachers do teach that, and it's not better or worse than this way. It's just not the way in which I teach non-duality. The way in which I teach non-duality is my talks are aimed like a meditation. So when listening to the talks, it's not leaving the talk with new information which is helpful for you, although there might be information which is helpful for you, and that's great. I'm not opposed to that. But my aim is to invite people that are listening into a stillness beyond the person. And my belief is that when you're speaking from that place, then there can be a resonance in the other to it. So the other It's like it brings it forward in the other person. And in order for me to do that, it's like I have to really stay in the confines of non-duality. I don't know why that's the way life is. Like extrapolating out too much on other subjects doesn't have the same effect as when I stay strictly on non-duality. So this isn't a talk which is giving you information, although it does. And non-duality is an amazing subject intellectually to learn, and it can be super helpful to have clarity intellectually, but it's actually calling you beyond that. It's like calling the big stop, as Papaji would say, stop, or Gengaji says that Papaji said to her, stop. So that's what I'm doing. So yeah, that might be vastly different from other speakers who speak more intellectually to communicate clarity. And you might also feel like, oh man, this is so confusing what she's saying. But I'm really trying to get you into the no space and no place and no time without you. That's beyond you. Yeah. So, no place at no time. So, from the way that I speak about non-duality, I would say that suffering is the attachment to desire, attachment to the outcome of desire. Desire, to me, is a natural phenomena of the body. It's the way the body moves. So there is a desire for the drink. It's not that desire is inherently evil. Some teachers call desire seeking, but to me it's not desire. So there is the desire to hang the painting on the wall. There is the desire to clean the apartment. And that comes through an impulse in the body. There's a desire to go to the toilet. And that to me isn't the problem. So the impulses aren't the problem to move, to do. To me, it's the attachment to the impulses, the seeking, bum, bum, bum. I mean, that's what I call it. Like in Buddhism, my teachers used to call it craving, which you can kind of like get a good sense of it, craving. Like you crave for things. Whereas I like the word desire, it's like a natural soft movement. Whereas seeking or craving is the belief that presence, non-duality, who you truly are, is found in the outcome of your desire. So you will be free when you clean the apartment. You will be free when you have kids. You'll be free when you climb Mount Everest. You will be free when you have an amazing house. You will be free when you have a certain amount of money. You will be free when blah, 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 blah. And that's not apparent to most people. Like they don't know what seeking is in their day-to-day life and they can't identify it. And some of what non-duality does is it makes it clear. Like it brings about awareness of this subject. So when you're by yourself, there can be an awareness of the seeking. There can be an awareness of not seeking. And through that awareness, those tendencies dissipate naturally. Just through seeing, I'm seeking now, and it's not actually going to give me what I want, will naturally dissipate it. It's an energy in the body. It's a seeking. It's like a contraction in the body and a seeking for it, and it creates the I, the me. I am happy. I am sad. I know that sounds weird that the seeking would create that, but it does. The seeking to be somebody. Like, this is the most fundamental, you could say, seeking, is to be someone in relationship with another. Because if you're not someone in relationship with another, then you are nothing, and you are deaded in this society. Deaded. Dun dun dun. Deaded. So to create somebody is a seeking. To be somebody is a seeking. And then that somebody has to be the best somebody, better than somebody, nicer than somebody, bigger than somebody, fuller than somebody, fatter than somebody, thinner than somebody. And this seeking these imaginings create a fixation on thought, a fixation on the narration that you're telling yourself about yourself, and a fixation with time. And before you know it, at 13, 14 years of life, you're predominantly lost in imagination rather than presence. So what is absolutely masked now by the imagination which is created through seeking. And what is totally veiled. And what non-duality does is it undoes these illusions. Not somebody undoing it, it's just they're seen for what they are and they're undone. And at some point, it's often called grace, there's a movement then back into presence rather than living in imagination. And then from presence, desire appears, action happens, but by no one, for no one, and there is no belief that those desires will fulfill you, because you are fulfilled. And so that is what in non-duality is defined as suffering. And this isn't my concept. I know you're most probably all now like, wow, Lisa, you're so profoundly deep. How did you think of all this stuff? My God, what a woman. Bam, bam. No. I know that's what you're all thinking, and I'm so humbled to pop all your bubbles, but in actuality, this was taught to me by my teachers. Non-duality has been for thousands and thousands and thousands and billions and trillions and infinite and forever years passed down, all the way from the original bacteria to the human, which now has a lip slapper and a voice box which makes words. I can't do a talk without being silly. If only she could stay sensible. And she would have a huge following. She'd be like Teal Swan, Eckhart Tolle, but she can't. She can't stay sensible. She has to bring out the word lip slapper. Okay, calm down, Lisa. So anyway, go back to what I was speaking about. I've forgotten. Yeah. So, yeah, I think I was speaking about action naturally coming out. No idea. But yeah, action's naturally coming out of the person, and there's not... Oh no, I wasn't. I was speaking about how it comes down from teachers in the apparent story. And then, so even though in the parent story it's a tradition that's come down from everything, it's nobody's message in the story. There's not one person, it's not my teachers, it's not their teachers, it's not their teachers, it's not the original bacteria that grew in the waters. It's a tradition that's come down verbally. So even in the story, it's nobody's message, which is just such a beautiful reflection. It's like the infinity mirrors. In this moment, it doesn't come from Lisa. It comes out of life. This moment. And what's so beautiful about those two things is if you go into the apparent story that we're all repeating to each other, the story, which is only ever arising here, that's a beautiful thing about stories, is even though they talk about time, they only ever arise here. So, if you go in and look at it, you never find the beginning of when this message began. Did it begin when humans first started speaking? Did it begin when humans wiped out Nathaniels? Nathaniels? I can't say the word. Never say the word. Nathaniel. Just imagine I have an accent when I slip up on my words. I'm going into Scottish. Scottish people can't be insulted because I am Scottish and you're allowed to say that about your own. I just grew up in England. Cairns is a Scottish name. Yeah, so they reflect back. It's so beautiful. So in our stories, you never find a beginning and the end. You never find the start place. And that's the same from these words. You never find the start place. They're coming out from this moment. And the more that non-duality infiltrates and there's less attachment to the imagined story of you, it becomes more and more obvious how everything's arising from this moment. Everything. And that's absolute love when that's seen. Because that's oneness, that's not two-ness, that's non-duality. To see that your enemies are coming from the same place as your allies is love. That's a very complex concept to explain. I'm not going to explain it now because I've still got to get round to the subject title, which is what is the subject? It's something about the accepting the true cost of waking up from suffering. So now we define what suffering is. Now we can talk about the true cost. So ultimately, in the moment, the true cost is only an imagination. So what you give up through time is only an imagination rising from now. It's not actual truth. And any imagination that you have about your waking up process will change depending on who you're talking to, how you feel in that moment, and what latest conditions and habits the body has. It's not a fixed thing. Our imagination of the past is always changing. It's not fixed. This is why so many wars happen, because people are always trying to fix ideas and believe that their ideas are fixed. And then they battle with other people's ideas that they believe are fixed. You said this. No, you said that. No, you said this. I mean, that's one reason. I mean, war is a very complex subject. Yeah. So the cost of you waking up is an imagination that's appearing. It's not a fixed thing. But if we look in that imagination, the cost is everything. Everything. Every idea that you have, which is everything, will be challenged until you see that who you are and what the world is totally empty, nothing. So the idea that you love your partner, the idea that you have kids, the idea that you are alive, the idea that your politics are better than your neighbours, the idea that spirituality will bring you freedom, the idea of freedom, the idea of peace on earth, the idea of good and bad, the idea of what is bad and what is good, you lose everything, everything, everything that you're attached to. It doesn't mean that it doesn't carry on appearing, but you lose the concept of it. The concepts are seen as what they are, concepts. Your story is seen what it is a story which is manifesting in order to aid human survival in a society. But none of it is your happiness, none of it is your peace, and there isn't a you there experiencing it. So the fundamental of what you lose is the you. But this is great relief because the you is seeking. The you create is a seeking pattern. I am better than, in order to be something. You're seeking to be something because the person begins to gain a terror that they're nothing. At 1 or 2 or 3, either through social conditioning or through a genetic predisposition, there arises this idea that they are something. But it could also just be social conditioning of parents going, you. And the baby's like, who? Or it could be the nature of having thoughts. That then they begin to have to be something. A good boy. Good boy. Who's a good boy? So you is seeking. You is seeking. Anything that you believe yourself to be. Anything that you feel you are. That's so extreme But like I say, this isn't therapy. You know, therapists are about building often a healthy you, which is really advisable to build a healthy you before you begin to destroy it, because that's often a disaster. You know, if you've got like a drug addict that's already like totally in self-destruction, this is most probably like adding to it and just growing their ego rather than dismantling it. It's total loss of control, because like when you identify, it's like the person begins to then repeat that I'm in control. I can control things through my thoughts. But that's not true. We don't know where thoughts come from. So the thought that I need to clean the kitchen, we don't know where that thought comes from. It just comes with a feeling of control. So when it's seen that all thoughts are simply, merely habits and conditions that aren't true, and they do not equal an identity, often there can be this energetic movement to who you truly are, which is way beyond anything you can imagine. Who you truly are is the unknown which knows. Emptiness, which is fullness. Stillness, which is in movement. You could call love. You could also call it I amness. As long as you realize that I amness doesn't mean I, it means like beingness, amness. And it's the end of, living your life the way you used to live it. It's no longer all about you and you satisfying your needs. What's important is the expression of the habits and the conditions in life. It's not what you get from life, it's the instantaneous expression of it. So if now in this moment there is an urge to speak about non-duality, it's the expression of that. It's not about you loving me, you giving to me. It's about the pure expression of it. Or me being better than someone. It's a pure expression of speaking. And it's reasonless, without reason. There is no reason as to why that's appearing. The mind is like, yes there is. She's like that because she don't like that. Sorry, instantaneous karma. I make myself choke for mocking. Me and Khaleesi also had instantaneous karma this morning, although Khaleesi was free from it. I decided to not pick up her dog poo, and as I was trying to bury it under leaves, there was an accident with another dog's dog poo. Instantaneous karma. Bad Lisa for not picking up dog poo. In England, that's very bad. In other countries, people are like, dog's poo. Pick up poo. What type of person are you? So the true cost of ending suffering is everything. Everything. Your life will not be the same as it was before. For sure. No way. No way. How can it be? Nice. So if anybody has any questions, then they can ask that in Telegram. It really doesn't matter about, like knowing the answers or not in a way. It's more of an exchange. Like, this is just a constant call into presence, these talks. I think a lot of you have listened to so many of my talks, you know what the answer is going to be. But sometimes when there's a longing from the heart, it just needs to hear that again. It's really not about the words, it's really about the meditation that's happening here. Like, can you feel that when you listen to these talks? And different teachers are different. Like I used to, when I used to go and visit teachers, there was some that were so energetic. You go in there and it'd be like, vroom, vroom. And then other teachers, it's like real, like intellectual clarity, which is also fantastic because, understanding conceptually what's happening can be very relaxing for the mind. It's not therapy, but in a way it's like, like a spiritual practice, like yoga or Seva yoga. I forgot the different types of yoga. It's, like service yoga or devotion yoga. It's it's all about settling down the mind. And as the mind settles down and doesn't have so many questions, it's like there is a losing of attachments, giving up, surrendering. The mistake of the mind is that I'm going to understand and then I will arrive somewhere. And you're not going to arrive somewhere, and those concepts are not going to lead this person to this big realization. It's the opposite that's happening. In the understanding, there's falling away happening. And some people can get addicted to that, to understanding, because in the moment of understanding, there is some form of falling away, and it's like, So then there's an addiction to understanding more and more and more and more. But what it often creates in those that get addicted to that is intense mental energy. More. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions, you can ask in Telegram. If you don't know how to join the Telegram group, then you can find out on my website. Just know that after 12 years of doing it openly on YouTube, I've come to the conclusion that there needs to be more safety and security in the group. So there is a security check you have to go through if you want to join Telegram. Yeah.